Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Let's get this video started. So I'm going to try to talk quick today and hopefully do this in one shot, get it done fairly quickly within 10 minutes. So have you ever heard the old saying, the path to where is paved with good intentions? Well, here's the story for you. In 1920, the United States of America decided to say, hold my beer and watch this. Actually, that's not true at all. They said, no more beer, watch this. And in 1920, Prohibition started. Why am I talking about Prohibition with a card video? Well, it's because we're going to mix together a few things today. Baseball cards, alcohol, Prohibition, and ice cream. It's really weird. So yeah, in 1920, for 13 years, the United States decided that they would try to go alcohol-free through a constitutional amendment. Now, I'm not saying it was a great idea, but we tried it. Good idea, fairies. What can you do? So here we are, going through the 1920s. No beer. Culture is starting to change quite a bit. It becomes quite interesting. There becomes an underground subculture for drinking alcohol. And everybody thought this would just be a great idea. So what do the beer companies do at that point to try and make a living? Well, I came across kind of all of this information roughly around the same time. I'll go ahead and recommend the video now. There's a video by a guy named the Fat Electrician. And he talks about some of this, and I'll try to get those links below. About the same time, I discovered these cards, which just kind of became funny. So Prohibition starts, and the card companies start doing all sorts of different things. A few companies had started buying real estate, like Coors and Anheuser-Busch. They had started buying real estate and trying to get into a few different things. Fruit drinks, malt, milk, and then other companies were selling products. So think, yeast, hops, those sorts of things. So as I'm kind of learning about this and researching about this, my socks are getting blown off, just kind of one thing after another. And so the card I'm going to show you today is a card I got in recently, and here it is. It is a 1928 ice cream card. And it's happened to be made by one of my favorite beer manufacturers. Now, I am from Texas, so I did not hear about this beer until I got to this side of the Mississippi. So I live in the Midwest. But this is a eBay certified authenticity guaranteed card, which does kind of crack me up that they come authenticity guaranteed when it's in a PSA holder. But hey, it is what it is. All right, so here's the card. And then we'll talk about some ridiculous history after this. So this is a 1928 Yuengling ice cream, Frank Frisch card. So there were 3 ice cream companies that all started making these at about the same time. And I forgot what the name of the other ones were. And then there was some company that did a whole bunch of kind of weird things. That was the 4th company. So there's 4 companies that made the front face all look the same. Every single one of them looked the same. It was the backs that actually read differently. And as you can see there, this thing will focus in for me. It was actually, if you brought in a Babe Ruth card, you get a free ice cream, or you could save Babe Ruth up for, let's see, Babe Ruth cards may be saved for quarts of ice cream or a $5 scooter. So almost 100 years ago, scooters were only $5. Pretty sure my kids cost a lot more than that. So who is Frank Frisch? Well, he's a Hall of Famer. He was drafted by the New York Giants and went straight into the major leagues. After some time with the New York Giants, he was part of a trade for Roger Hornsby, where the Giants got Hornsby. And they sent Frank Frisch and a pitcher to the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, Hornsby would eventually make his way back to St. Louis, and he would actually play with Frank on the 1931 team, I believe. But when I found out about these cards, I was just blown away. And of course, I was looking into the history of dairy in the country as well, and it became comical. So in the late 19th century, so late 1800s to the early 20th century, a lot of things were changing in the U.S. And Prohibition changed a lot with the U.S. as well. A underground drinking culture started, but also the dairy companies made huge gains into the market that they had not made before. And the reason I say this becomes interesting is because after the dairy companies start getting into the market, right, because Yuengling and all these other companies need to make a profit. So now ice cream bars happen, right? So people are meeting and having ice cream, watching a game, having ice cream, because you can't drink your favorite liquid courage at that point. And in 1930, 33, I think, when Prohibition ends, the dairy companies still have an issue. They have this large market share. They have all these cattle. They're now making milk. What do? Well, they actually struggled for several years, but along came World War II. And when World War II came, the U.S. started buying a whole bunch of dairy products. And they would actually ship ice cream over to the troops on the front lines. So as we're hammering those Nazis and Japanese during the Second World War, we're actually providing fresh ice cream to our troops. That's how good our folks have it. So the Nazis are losing a war. They can't really feed their troops. They have slaughtered their whole population. And they're trying to ride horses around. We have mechanized divisions everywhere. We have more motorized vehicles in World War II than the Nazis do, and we're just wiping them off the face of the planet, which was a good thing, right? And we're bringing ice cream straight to the front lines. It should have been a sign, right? Like you guys are on the wrong side of history. You don't exterminate a group of people, but they would eventually learn. So when the war ended, all of a sudden you still have now this massive dairy industry in the United States that needs something to do. And this is kind of where history gets really interesting, as we are helping to rebuild Western Europe and Japan and try to be a positive influence on the world as we know it. The dairy industry here has a massive problem. So the United States government decided that it would buy up excess dairy that was being bought. I know what you're thinking. Responsible, good dairy farmers for the American in America would want to help the country not have a huge burden, and so they would eventually start to decline the amount of dairy they were making, right? That's what you're thinking, because that seems like the good patriotic thing to do. Well, you would be wrong. That's not what we did. Instead, dairy farmers produced more dairy. And the United States government kept buying more dairy products. Specifically, they were buying cheese. That's right, cheese. Lots of cheese. And this is why you need to go watch the Fat Electrician. There's a warning. He cusses a lot. Prior Army. If it offends you, I'm sorry. It's not meant to. I don't hear it. I was probably in the military and around people like that for too long. Anyway, that's not the point. So we start having a country where the government's just buying lots and lots of cheese. Well, you have to hold the cheese somewhere. And the government held it in basically caves that they refrigerated in Missouri. I guess it's a good central location point for it. I don't know. But if that wasn't crazy enough, eventually President Ronald Reagan gets elected. I still like Ronald Reagan and his speeches. I particularly like his joke about free speech and Gorbachev. Again, look it up. But Reagan comes in, wants to shrink down the government size and sees this huge expense. Here's the chance to cut some of it. Well, that didn't work because nobody wanted to throw away all the cheese. That's what I said. Watch the video. And so by the end of it, we have about, I think it was 4 billion with a B pounds of cheese. 4 billion pounds of cheese. It's nuts. So yeah, Prohibition. Great call. Now I understand you should drink responsibly. You should, I'm not saying all those things. All I'm saying is good idea, fairy, bad execution. I don't think there was any way to make it good execution. But anyway, Frank Fish, my first Yuengling card. I really like these cards. I might have to get more. I really don't want to take it out of this package, but I don't know. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys are doing well. Saw some great videos from whatever it's called in Chicago this year, and that looked amazing. Maybe someday I'll go. So thanks for sharing those videos for all of you who are there, and then for all of us who weren't, maybe next year or the year after. Thanks a lot. See y'all.